The fourth and final game of the June 2013 LSAT tells us each of 5 paralegals, Frank, Gina, Hero, Kevin, and Lori, is being assigned to exactly one of 3 cases, the Rames, Sicoli, or Thompson case. At least one paralegal will be assigned to each case. The following conditions must apply. All right, so first placing what we already know. We have 5 paralegals, F, G, H, K, and L. And we are placing these paralegals in one of 3 cases, either the Rames, S, or T, and at least one paralegal will be assigned to each case. So we know at least one to each case. You notice that is going to give us 3 total, right? 1 to each, which gives us 2 remaining. So our numerical distributions for this game are 3, 1, 1, or 2, 2, and 1. Very important to keep that in mind before proceeding. Again, coming directly from at least 1 in each case, we have 5 paralegals. The only possibilities are 3, 1, 1, or 2, 2, 1. Turning our attention now to the conditions. The first condition tells us that either Frank is assigned to Rames and Kevin is assigned to Thompson, or Frank is not assigned to Rames and Kevin is not assigned to Thompson. And that is as tricky as they get. But again, we know we're dealing with either or. So the key here is let's pick out our 2 either or variables, right? Let's pick them out. Again, looking at number 1 here, our 2 variables. Well, the first is Frank assigned to Rames and Kevin assigned to Tompkins. That is our first variable. Our second variable is Frank not assigned to R and Kevin not assigned to T. So now we know how do we deal with either or. We pick one of our variables, negate it, and that is going to be our sufficient condition. So let's pick our first variable, Frank in R and Kevin in Tompkins, and negate that. So F is not in R. We know and becomes or. Kevin is not in T, and that is now going to lead to our other variable, which tells us that it's actually not in both. So if Frank is not in R or Kevin is not in T, well then neither Frank is in R nor Kevin is in T, right? The contrapositive would be if Frank is in R or Kevin is in T, then Frank is in R and Kevin is in T. All right, so a complicated rule, but again, we know how to deal with either or. We have our 2 variables. Again, variable 1, variable 2. We picked 1, negated it, and the other 2 was our necessary condition. And then the contrapositive is like we took 2 and negated it, which will lead to 1 as the necessary condition. So that is the first rule. Turning our attention now to rule number 2. Either Frank is the sole paralegal assigned to his case, or Gina is the sole paralegal assigned to her case, but not both. All right, so again, let's take a look here. Either Frank is the sole or Gina is the sole. So again, our variables here are Frank being alone or Gina being alone. And again, we know for either or, we pick 1, negate it. So if Frank is not alone, then Gina is alone. Contrapositive, if Gina is not alone, then Frank is alone. But that's not it, because it also told us not both. So we know that if Gina is alone, then Frank is not alone. And if Frank is alone, then Gina is not alone. So now, turning my attention to our possibilities, we know that in 2, 2, 1, this clearly must be Frank or Gina. Now, in our 3, 1, 1, we know one of them Frank or Gina is alone, but not both. So the other would actually be appearing in our 3 paralegal case. And lastly, the third and final condition tells us Hero is assigned to S. So pretty straightforward, putting H in S. And that would be the setup for this game. Now again, we've made some nice deductions with the numerical distributions and where F and G must go, but not much. So now let's go to the questions, being very aggressive with our rules, and let's try to get through them as quickly as possible.